Welcome to a football show. My name is Braden Gall. He is Easton Freeze, not Zach Lyons. He is busy catching 6 barracudas, 2 wahoos, and 1 hammerhead shark in the Gulf of Mexico, I believe. This is the final show in which he will not be with us, but he took like a 10-day trip in the middle of the football season. What are we supposed to do? Easton, it's been great hanging out with you, and thank you for hanging out one more time today on the show. How are you, sir?
I'm great. No, it's been awesome. I started filling in, and now it's turned into this little Vegas residency of me on the show. And it's been a good time. I've spent all morning. We got Thanksgiving coming up. We got family coming into town, and our house is in disarray. So naturally, I got a list from my wife last night of all the things that needs to be cleaned up around the house. So I've been cleaning bathrooms all morning. Our house smells like bleach. I'm a little bit high from the fumes. So if I say something crazy during the show, it's not my fault. I take no responsibility for what we're about to talk about.
Well, Mike Vrabel just got done talking, and as I'm sending messages here live on the product here, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group. We do appreciate you guys. RIP to the Hammerhead. Yes, if you want to get into the comments and you want to ask questions, this is a show to do that on, because I'm going to start this product in this show, in this conversation, hopefully unlike any other show in the market. And Hot Read Podcast does excellent work. I've got a couple of questions off of your show today, so make sure you go check that out. So make sure you do that as well. Always listening to the Hot Read Monday morning, first thing. You guys tape it on Sunday evenings right after the games. Good reaction stuff, so go check that out. I think there's a few things in there that we're going to discuss today. Will Levis. Mike Vrabel talked about Will Levis today. We're going to talk about Will Levis. What does the Buccaneers' loss say about his future and what the Titans' plan should be around Will Levis? The offensive line got some comments from Mike Vrabel today about the offensive line. Of course, we've got to talk about that. And I think one of the larger conversations today is going to be this offense versus defense tension that supposedly exists inside the Tennessee Titans locker room. Is that a real thing? Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? What do we make of it? We'll get into that as well. And then a lot of SEC news. Jimbo Fisher, Texas A&M, pays the largest buyout in SEC history, in college football history, $75 million. Good work if you can get it. To Jimbo Fisher to not coach there anymore. Tennessee absolutely destroyed by Missouri. I don't see enough people giving Missouri the credit they deserve.
Yeah.
As we said on this show on Thursday, Missouri is the better team, and they are at home. So I don't think – now, is what happened acceptable? No. But I think there's going to be some ties the way we start this show. Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group. Locally owned businesses here in Nashville. Support good locally owned businesses. And I doubt we will discuss Mike Vrabel being on the hot seat. But there seems to be a lot of hot seat conversation about Mike Vrabel. And here's what I want to start the show with. And this is directed mostly at Tennessee Titans fans, but with like a little side eye towards Tennessee Volunteer fans.
Okay.
Because both teams had awful weekends. Both teams played largely terrible football games. There's not a lot for us to say about the actual games themselves. We'll get into some of the individual pieces and players and so on. But as I already alluded to, I think here's the good news for both sets of fans. Do not lose sight of the big picture. I know that's hard to do. I think that is very hard to do. It's hard to ask fans to do that. I have worked in my career and get paid to ignore the short term and pay attention to the big picture. It's college football. It's big picture. NFL, especially this particular exact Titans team. It needs to be about big picture. Here is the great news. That was just the good news. This is the great news, Easton.
Okay. You
only have one more week in which you need to actually invest your heart and soul into the outcome of the game. You got one more week. You lose to Jacksonville on Sunday. And I say this in part as a Tennessee Volunteer alumni going through this exact exercise, and a Green Bay Packers fan who watched a virtually identical football game.
Also 3-6, by the way.
Right. And the game itself, if you watch the Titans-Steelers game, I watched another version of that almost to a T when the Packers and Steelers played on Sunday. Warren and Harris did a great job running the football. The Packers couldn't finish drives in the red zone, in the end zone. And Jordan Love threw an interception at the goal line as time expired. Sound familiar, Titans fans? So I say all of this. You commit to the wins and losses being a big part of your emotional investment until the end of the Jacksonville game. And if the Jacksonville Jaguars win and beat this Titans team, you are, for all intents and purposes, eliminated from playoff conversations, really. I mean, barring some miraculous 7-0 stretch. And I get it. You're still playing Houston. You could still win games. I get all of that. I think you have to ignore the week in and week out pain and excitement and focus on the big picture, which is that Rand Carthon has still not yet had one entire full complete offseason to put in place his entire structure and to draft players and to handle the roster. You have a brand new starting quarterback that could be the future of your franchise for 12 years. I just think you cannot lose sight of the big picture immediately following a game that there's very little to discuss from a good standpoint for your team. I think that's really important for Titans fans. And I don't think anyone's starting any show like that today.
No, I mean, it's fair, right? That this is, it depends on what you want. And if where this Titans team, where this season seems to be going is in fact where things are going, getting a top draft pick, resetting next year. You know, we've kind of been on this season's a fact-finding mission already kind of narrative for a couple of weeks now. I think that it is fair to say that you have one more week to care. If you win the game, then it gets kind of weird because you're back kind of in that middle ground. If you lose, it's much more definitive, right? You're 3-7. Jacksonville and Houston both have a significant lead on you in the division. You are statistically, historically out of any playoff contention at that point. You already are, I believe the number is 4% chance when you're at 3-6 to make the playoffs historically. It's a little bit different, I think, for this Titans team because they're in a much more winnable division than I'd say most 3-6 teams are historically. But that is going to require faltering from the top teams. And Jacksonville certainly looks like a team that could falter, but Houston is, this is a tangent. How did Houston lose to Carolina like 10 seconds ago? How did that happen? I don't know. That's what I woke up this morning thinking. Well, that was like 10 minutes ago and that happened. And now they look like one of the best teams in the league. But no, go ahead.
Well, DP says it. Levis's development means more to me than wins. The problem with that is that his development is stunted by this awful offensive line. We will get to that because Mike Vrabel commented on it, and I have a very strong opinion that I think I've said on the show many times. I'm gonna two quick shout outs. Shout out to my brother-in-law who was in attendance. He lives down there, and their brand new baby boy who was at the game, a huge Titans fan, but he was at the game. Focus on the big picture, my man. Just focus on the big picture. And then a shout out to my other buddy, good friend Brent, who's a big Tennessee alumni, a big Tennessee fan. And one of his buddies, Knoxville's burning as well right now, as well as all of Titans fandom. And he sent me a screen grab. This is just bear with me here. Okay. He sent me a screen grab of a text conversation that he was having with all of his buddies. And one of the guys on the text thread said, Tennessee football has been dog shit for 20 years. I will happily take 8-4 and start the Nico era next year. Joe Milton is a specimen with no it factor. Heupel needs to tweak his scheme, and we need someone to teach blocking, not holding. If Knoxville is on fire, it's because people are puds with nothing better to do than go to Roosters. Shout out to Roosters, of course, which is a local establishment where people stay up late and drink booze. So I feel like that which to me is an incredibly sound, big picture, thoughtful, nuanced look at the Tennessee Volunteer program. I think that is the exact same way we can look at the Tennessee Titans once they lose to Jacksonville, should that happen on Sunday. But to your point, you could already kind of do it now because you can't fix the offensive line in the middle of the season. Nope. Rand Carthon is going to have to do that through the draft.
Free agency, though? What about free agency?
Nope, that's where you go get a receiver. If you want,
is that right? Right.
Spend on a receiver. There's nobody in free agency that's going to fix
all those amazing tackles out there in the free agent market.
Gotta go build to the draft. And Herndon said this. I believe in this. The best college teams build through recruiting. The best NFL teams build through the draft. It is all about finding your guys, developing them. The Eagles, Lions. You look at these teams that have built great offensive lines. They're built through the draft.
What was it? 9 of the 10 starting linemen on the 2 best offensive lines in the league are homegrown drafted players.
And a lot of those high value assets in the draft. So
it's like the Penei Sewell number 4 overall guys.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep. And so they're going to need to do that. And they're going to need to draft a left tackle. We've said it forever. I just don't think we can't continue to say it. without saying I think that the smarter approach as a Titans fan is to stop investing your heart and soul into the outcomes of the games right now, which I know is so hard to do. That is the whole point of being a fan. If you're a college fan, you only get 12 games. If you're an NFL fan, you get 17 days to a year to enjoy your teams. And I understand all of that. But the thing I saw watching that team, and I know we're going to get into the offense, defense, and Levis and everything else, and it's the thing I would say to Volunteers fans about their team this year. They were never a great team. They were never supposed to be a great team. This was an aging running back and an aging quarterback with a middle of the pack to lower than average roster. There are no dudes. There are no dudes. We talked about depth in the preseason. I know that Vrabel has worked miracles with this organization a couple of different years. How many players, Easton, on the offense and the defense would start for, and I'm going to use generic, very good NFL team. Let's say the top 5 to 6 to 8 NFL teams. How many difference makers does this football team have on its roster?
Derrick Henry would start on most good teams.
Okay.
DeAndre Hopkins would obviously start on most good teams.
Okay.
I think
two old heads, but yes, I agree.
Right. Peter Skoronski would start on most good teams.
Okay. All right.
I think in his situation, highly drafted rookie, you're starting him. Jeffrey Simmons obviously is starting on most good teams.
Yep.
I think Tier Tart is a starting nose tackle on most good teams.
I don't know about that. But okay.
I mean, there aren't a ton of awesome nose tackles in the league. Like, I
mean,
think
if he played like he did against Tampa, maybe. But what about the other 6 or 7 games?
Well, I think that Danico Autry it depends on the scheme, but he's up there.
There you go, dude. There you go. And I think
Roger McCreary, maybe. Sean Murphy Bunting, maybe.
Not on great teams, man. Not on great teams with good corners. I mean, if there's a glaring weakness for a team,
well, there
sure.
are. I mean, I think you overestimate how many teams have 3 very good corners.
Maybe, and that's totally fair. And I'm open to the discussion being like, I'm open to the discussion from it being like, instead of like 4 dudes, it's like 6 dudes. The point is you just don't have dudes, man. They didn't have them in camp. They did, and I picked this team to be under 500. I did not pick them to win the division, and it's not a victory lap by me at all. I think
this take a little bit. I'll let you finish, but
I don't think they tried to do a rebuild on the fly in the offseason, and it can happen in the NFL more than it can happen anywhere else. But they don't have dogs, different true star power. They don't have them. They got Jeffrey Simmons is a true difference-making star. DeAndre Hopkins is a difference-making star, aging, but he is. I think Derrick Henry, if playing on a great team, Buffalo, for example, would be a star still.
Yep.
But I don't know how much longer. And so, I think you're right. Like, guys like Skoronski, like, sure, they might like earn themselves a starting spot on he would not start for Philadelphia. Like, he wouldn't start there. So I think that there's teams where if they have a hole at left guard, he'd be absolutely worthy. And I think that's a good player to point out as sort of this middle ground. But Peter Skoronski is not a top 5 guard in the NFL, top 10 guard in the NFL. They don't have those guys. They just don't. And you look at the best teams across the league, and they are loaded with guys at almost every level. And you have to have guys. And Rand Carthon hasn't been. This is all to me to try to take the loss in some sort of positive way and be like, there's nothing positive to be taken from that. We need to reevaluate what we're looking at. Does that make sense?
No, I get what you're saying. I disagree with the take a little bit about them not having guys. I agree that they don't right now have players. There's a difference between a label of a guy like you can be, DeAndre Hopkins is a difference making star. We know this.
Yep.
He also can have a 6, 7, 8 game stretch where he's playing poorly, and so you could say, oh, right now he's not being one. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, difference making stars, that's who they are. They can in a stretch of games not be that person. And what I'm trying to get at here is this team has more. It's a bad combination of a lack of dudes and a number of dudes that should have taken a step and didn't, right? Because I think that Traylon Burks had it was there for him to be one of those dudes. He's not taking that. Chika Okonkwo was there for him to be one of those dudes. He's not taking that. Kyle Phillips is recently, starting to. It's getting a late start on it. It's a maybe. TBD on him.
The guy that
Tajay Spears,
the guy that was used 9th out of all the 9 skill position players that played on Sunday, the guy who had the 9th most snaps, Kyle Phillips,
and led the team in receiving yards. Right, exactly. So yeah, like it's a combination of players that you thought would be or thought could be those guys that just aren't being those guys. Like Azeez Al-Shaair, I think, is capable of being a better player than he's been. I think that Arden Key is capable of being a better player than he's been. It goes on. Amani Hooker absolutely is capable of being a better player than he's been. It's a lot
frankly, Hooker's a tough one because he's kind of getting paid like a difference maker, but
yeah.
I'm not sure he's ever been one his whole career. He's a fine safety. I'm talking about dudes. I'm not talking about like
I get it. And so the depth thing is an issue. The disappointment from players is an issue. I want to take this in a little bit of a different direction though, because you were talking about how the point for fans should be the future now, and it's very difficult week to week to not be putting your heart and soul into trying to win games. I think that message, while it makes sense to most everybody who hears it, it's really difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow, understandably so. And a way that I think you can absolutely spin it to give your, because I think a lot of people see that, hear that message, and they'll meet you with, okay, then why should I watch? Why should I care? Like, should I just pick up a hobby? Should I like get outside and touch grass for the next 9 months instead of care about football? And where I think fans should invest their mental and emotional energy the rest of this season is sort of in winning. It should be investing in Will Levis, showing you he's capable of doing good things, but ultimately winning. Like, root for Will Levis to win you football games. Not because you want to win football games for this season, not because you're trying to win your way into the playoffs or win the division, but because you want to see what he can do to win you games for next year when it starts to matter again. Yep. Right. And so obviously we're going to talk about this in a minute with the Bucks. He wasn't really even given a chance to do anything.
He also made plenty of rookie mistakes.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we were talking about this the past couple of episodes, how it's coming, right? There was going to be some serious rookie mistakes coming, and that's the mistakes are a function of the process, not a flaw. So that's a good thing, in my opinion, that he's making these mistakes, because he's got to learn from mistakes. You can't learn unless you fail. So yeah, I think that rooting for him to win, rooting for him to show you what he's got should be the goal. And so you can still root for wins, but not because they're for now. And right. my ultimate point, to land this plane briefly, is I saw somebody, who was it? I think it was Tic Tac Titan on Twitter earlier today, talking about how he's looking forward to the draft, it seems, already. And he's talking about how, if this Titans team wins another game, they're not getting Ola or Joe Alt without trading up, which is, I mean, a fair point, I suppose. I think if you win your way out of the top 5 picks, you're probably not getting one of those guys. My point there is like, well, translation. So they're not getting one of those guys without trading up, because I've seen this team play at home. Like,
I think it's way too early to be like,
it is way too early.
Joe Alt and Ola Fashanu are going to be top 5.
Right.
One of those guys could. Where was Paris Johnson drafted? 9th, 10th,
yeah, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
I mean, there's like 4 or 5 other guys too that one of them's going to rise to challenge that twosome, and like, it's too early in the draft process to start talking about, like, I think it's not too early to look and watch players. I think that's absolutely go scout. But
I agree with all of that. What I'm saying is, I think folks are torn right now between rooting for a loss every week because you're trying desperately to get the highest pick possible, and rooting for wins because naturally that's what you want to do. And what the message I'm trying to get across is, I've seen this team play at home. I will eat my shorts if they win, or if they lose every game the rest of the year. Like, they're going to fall into a win somewhere.
They play some home games.
Yeah. They play some home games. We've seen this. Like, they lack the talent to really compete, but they absolutely have enough talent to win some more ball games, and I think that they will. So my point is, don't be so consumed right now in the middle of November with getting the highest draft pick, or you don't
know how it's going to play out.
You don't know how it's going to play out. The odds are you're not going to be up there. So my ultimate point here, I'm sorry to continue to ramble.
No, you're good.
It's
a podcast.
Focus on what Will Levis can do, his development, and keeping him safe and healthy, and getting the most out of him now, and winning ball games with him, because ultimately you're going to win your way out of, I think, a top draft pick anyways. So just That's what is most important right now.
And just go get yourself a bottle of whiskey from Sinkers Beverages, Uber Eats, search Sinkers Beverages. It'll come right to your house, and that'll make you much happier, I promise you.
Time will fly much faster for you. Yeah,
I find this to be such a, and again, maybe it's because I'm dead inside because I've worked in this industry for as long as I have. But the Nashville Predators this year, went through a full scale rebuild. That's my hockey team.
Right.
The Green Bay Packers. Full scale rebuild without Aaron Rodgers. They have nothing but first and second year players all across their entire offense. And the thing that I am watching and the thing that I am enjoying is much about find a guy to plug into a starting spot. Like the Packers, for example, have like 6 skill players that are all very, very young. Luke Musgraves already looks like a starting tight end. Fuck you, Stoney Keeley, and fuck you, Zach Lyons. That dude is a real football player.
Did they not like him?
No, of course they didn't, because they're idiots. But the point is that that Dontavius Wicks and Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and like go on and on down the list. All these guys have athletic ability. Jaden Reed caught a touchdown yesterday. All I care about as a Packers fan is Jordan Love the guy? I still don't know if they know. And find out which one of these dudes is going to be a dude. And the Predators are doing the same thing with all these young prospects. They have so many young prospects in the pipeline. They have like 11 first-round picks in between their roster on the NHL level and at the AHL minor league level. They have a deeper farm system than they've ever had. And the only thing I care about as a Predators fan right now and as a Packers fan is to find out which one of these guys is a dude. With Luke Evangelista, if you don't know anything about hockey, Luke Evangelista is clearly a dude.
Yep, clearly.
And the Predators have found a star winger in Luke Evangelista. And so to me, this is about find out if this is about Chig and Traylon Burks. And here's the other thing that you mentioned when I asked you for stars.
You want to throw a bone to Stoney? Jalen Duncan. This season's about Jalen Duncan, baby. Get him out there.
No, that's exactly right.
I'm serious. It's a joke, but it's serious.
Find out what he is. I think Josh Wiley is a guy that could be a dude.
Yeah, keep throwing the ball, see what happens.
Find out what he is.
Yep.
And so I find it very refreshing and easy to take the outcome away if I am focused on skills and traits and positions, and if a guy's developed correctly, and does he earn his way into the starting rotation? Like, do I know we've got a starting tight end next year? Because Chig has not done that this year. He has answered the question in the wrong direction. Traylon Burks has answered the question in the wrong direction for now. They both have time. But this goes for, it's like, find out, like if you have 5 or 6 Kyle Phillips, if all you learn by the end of the season is that Will Levis is your starting quarterback, Josh Wiley is your starting tight end, and Kyle Phillips is your starting slot, and Peter Skronsky is your starting left guard, that's 4 pretty good questions you've answered between now and the end of the season.
You can also get negatives, right? You can also I find out that this guy is not our tackle. We can quit trying.
Yes.
I know that this guy is not a starting receiver for us. We can quit trying.
I find it refreshing. I mean, it sounds like you're giving up, but like it's also being a realist. Like this roster never was going to be good enough to win playoff games. It was never good enough to truly challenge for the division. It was just never good enough. And the depth wasn't there. The talent wasn't there. And here's the other thing, because we're about to talk about offense and defense. Kingston Group, Sinkers Beverages. I asked you for the dudes on the team. You named 4 on the offense, and you named 1.5 on the defense. We said it on Thursday. This is we can talk about the Bucks game, and we could talk about the whole season. I think those are different things. The defense played pretty well against the Bucks. They gave up way too many X plays. The score should have been worse. Mike Evans dropped a wide open touchdown. They took too many penalties to keep Bucks drives alive. Baker Mayfield averaged almost 10 yards per attempt, 9.5 yards per attempt. Like the defense was fine, but the defense this year has not been good.
I disagree. I disagree on both fronts. Let's fight about this because I completely disagree on both fronts.
That's fine. 23rd in quarterback hits, 28th in the NFL in hurries, 28th in quarterback knockdowns, 30th in quarterback pressures. And by the way, Denver is behind them in every one of those categories and could pass them tonight. So really they could actually go down in all of those categories. The defense had moments on Sunday where I thought they were very, very good. And if you want to blame the offense for losing to Tampa, 1,000,000% agree. 1,000,000% agree. It's the offense's fault.
That's a part of it, yeah.
The offensive line, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Receivers didn't get separation. Will Levis didn't throw the ball when he was supposed to. I can go down the list of things, of which none of are Tim Kelly, by the way. At the bottom of the list is Tim Kelly, and we'll get to that. I'm okay with blaming the offense specifically for that game. And I understand the history of this franchise the last couple of years where the defense has had to do all the work. This is also the worst passing defense in the NFL last year. Mm-hmm. There are not dudes on the defense either. There are some dependable guys and the star in Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, I disagree. I think there are dudes.
But there is no other dude on this team.
Not having dudes and dudes that aren't playing well. I totally disagree. Danico Autry is a dude. Tier Tart is a dude. Arden Key has shown us flashes of being a dude.
Nah, those are solid players. Those aren't stars.
No. You're so wrong. You're so wrong. Did you say like TJ Watt?
I'm talking about star power. Jeffrey Simmons level. Jeffrey Simmons level of talent. I want somebody. Jeffrey Simmons is a dude.
First of all, find me defenses around the league that have like 3 or 4 dudes on the side of the ball. Hard.
There's 2 linebackers for Tampa Bay that are dudes, and a nose tackle.
They're dudes that are playing. They're dudes that are playing fine this year. So like this is where you're mistaking dudes that aren't playing up to their standard and guys that aren't dudes. I disagree. Like they're functionally the same thing. Dudes that aren't playing up to their standard and guys that aren't dudes both play mediocre. So
Danico Autry had a sack yesterday and is playing pretty well. Like I think Danico Autry's playing pretty solid football. Not great. But I think he's playing up to his level, which is I'm an above average player. I think
he's playing pretty good and below his level of standard, and part of that's he's aging, and so like it's different a little bit for an aging star. I completely disagree. So you said that they played pretty good yesterday, the defense. I disagree. I think they played pretty poorly up to their standards. They also still only allowed 20 points. You said they've not played well this season. I think that in comparison to what we were expecting from them, because there was a lot of talk about how this defense could be like a top 5 unit coming into the season, that obviously was wrong. I think that in comparison to that expectation, they are not playing up to their standard. But this season, they have allowed 16, 24, 27, 3, 23, 24, 23, 16, and 20 points to their opponents. Any other offense in the league that is competent wins half of those games at least. I mean, those are all, if you're being held, they've held their opponent to 20 or fewer points 4 times this year, and they're 1-3 in those games. I was talking yesterday with JT on the Hot Read podcast, go check it out, about our soft pitch, softball rec co-ed league we play in the summer. Very important to us.
I've already listened to this once. I know,
but the other people haven't. So shut up and listen, because other people have not.
All
right. There's a lot of games where we're in the powwow afterwards trying to figure out how we lost, and folks are pointing to errors here on the defense, and the pitching wasn't that great, and we should have walked that guy. We knew he was going to hit a homer. And I have to tell everybody, hey, listen, guys, we scored 7 runs. I don't care how good or bad the defense was. The offense didn't do enough to win the game, no matter how well we played on defense.
That's bad in softball. 7 runs. I'm honestly asking.
In soft pitch, you need about 15 runs minimum to win soft pitch softball games. Yeah. It's a game of
scoring. You guys have a Titans level of offense, is what you're saying.
Well, in certain games, no, we were fine, but there are certain games where the bats don't show up. You know how baseball goes. And so that's the story of every Titans game this year. It's like the defense.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The defense has been good enough to win games, and the offense didn't do anything. That's completely not true. The Indianapolis Colts lined up, punched the Titans in the face, and ran the football down their throats the entire game. I think that's the one.
The Baltimore Ravens started. Now, hang on. The Baltimore Ravens started on the first drive with X plays, second drive X plays, third drive.
Baltimore went on to score 1 billion points against 2 better teams than the Titans the next 2 weeks. The Titans defense played so well against Baltimore. That's such a good offense.
They're very good. I understand context.
24 points to that Ravens offense.
They are 31st in the NFL in takeaways. They've given up 143 yards rushing on average. Over the last 5 games. That's 5 consecutive games.
And they've given their offense a chance to win in every game but one this year.
The Browns game, I will say, was equal parts offense and defense. That was, to me, equal parts.
Nothing worked. Yeah, nothing worked.
That was equal parts terrible. I'm not blaming any one thing. That's like the whole
I would actually blame the offense more because of the fact the defense was on the field so long. How do you not give up so many
True,
points?
But they also quit. So that's my opinion. But I can go down the list.
The game was over.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, you again, 11 plays, 90 yards when you have a lead in the fourth quarter and the defense couldn't stop the run. I am not saying that they aren't better than the offense. I'm not saying that the offense isn't a bigger concern. The offensive line is the worst part of the team. And it is the reason this team is going to be whatever it is at the end of the season is because the offensive line is terrible. I am not arguing that.
So what are you
but
arguing
to suggest
about
that this
what are you arguing? Just to be let's be super clear.
That people like the fans and you are overvaluing the talent on this defense. And you said something on the Hot Read podcast that I wanted to bring up because I don't believe number one, I don't believe in this whole defense is so sick and tired of the offense, and so there's tension behind the scenes. Number one, you get paid millions of dollars to ignore that tension. I
don't buy that yet either.
You get paid millions of dollars to ignore the tension and do your fucking job. That's why you are a professional athlete. So I don't care about any of that shit. Don't tell me that the offense and defense can't get along in the locker room. You get paid millions of dollars, get along. It's your job.
I'm sure they're frustrated, but they get paid to not be, right?
Sure. Well, guess what? Don't give up 143 yards rushing per game. How about you pressure the fucking quarterback and maybe create a turnover? Because you haven't done any of that shit the entire season. So the defense
so again, I ask, what's your
just as much on the hook. Here is.
So you're saying that it's the defense's fault for this season just as much as the offense?
I'm saying not the Tampa Bay game.
No, I'm talking about the season. And saying this season, the results of this season so far are as much to do about the defense being bad as the offense.
This is going to sound very Vrabelish, and I don't mean it to be.
Okay.
But we're all guilty.
Okay.
Everyone can do better. We all could be better. Everybody,
right?
Like, so if you want to go specifically, I think the Saints' loss is on Ryan Tannehill and the offense. That's not on the defense. That absolutely are more of the losses on the offense. 100%. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that they're equal.
I think every loss is on the offense besides Indianapolis.
I think
even then it's equal parts.
The defense has not been very good statistically in almost any category other than points allowed, which is what you're saying, and I get that.
But there's a difference between not very good and absolutely good enough to win. There's a difference.
I agree. But what I'm saying is that they have not been good enough. When you can't stop the run,
that's what I just said, that they have been good enough.
Dude, you have to do one of three things.
Okay.
In football to be good at defense. You have to stop the run. You have to pressure the quarterback. You have to cover people. And now they aren't doing.
You missed one. You have to not allow points. You have to not allow points. That's how you're good. Is you don't allow points. Who cares how you get there? If you don't allow points,
Mike Evans dropped the pass, and that's why they
didn't allow points. Who cares how you got there? If you're a defense, your job is to keep the other team from scoring points. They're doing that enough to win, and the Titans' offense is losing games. They're losing the games.
I'm not denying that the offense is worse. That's not my argument.
So what is your point here? What is the argument?
That the whole team sucks.
Well, no one's disagreeing with you on that, Braden. That's not the point. That's not what we're arguing here.
I want to get into a smarter conversation about this because you said something on the hot read, and I think this is ultimately the question. You said also Easton doing you are channeling your inner Zach. I do appreciate.
I'm trying, yeah.
So you said,
give me a fucking break, Braden.
There you go. We got it in. Go to Sickers, go to Kingston Group. We do appreciate you guys. Boom Boss as well. Go check them out. Free shout. You said something, and I can't remember exact context, but I thought it was the most interesting thing that we could discuss. And that was, you said, I think they're still doing the same stuff because you were discussing the impact of Jim Schwartz leaving with Shane Bowen. Is there, and I do think there's an impact there. I don't know how you can quantify it, but I think Jim Schwartz is a very good defensive mind. So not having him around, I think, is a negative. How much? I have no clue. I don't think anyone,
right?
I don't think anyone can.
Of course,
but if they are,
you lost a guy.
If you said that sentence about a quarterback or an offensive coordinator or an offense, immediately all of you people in the comments, all you great, wonderful fans will be like, you got to evolve, you got to change, you got to do new shit. That is that's the thing we say about offenses all the time. Oh, they're running the same things. They're running the same routes. They're doing the same this. They're doing the same that. You got to change. You put stuff on tape. You got to evolve. And if the Titans for 3 straight years are doing the same stuff, and it has led to what is statistically their worst defense, what is talent-wise their worst defense, it's not working either. So I don't buy this Titans offense, defense, tension in the locker room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't buy that. I think it is a combination of everything. It's a combination of losing Schwartz. It's a combination of aging veterans not performing. It's a combination of young players not developing. It's a combination of not changing your scheme and doing the same stuff for 3 straight years. It's not having any middle linebackers that are truly great players. Like it's Danico Autry getting older. TR Tart being hurt. Like, we can go down the list. I'm not ignoring any of the context here, but like, it's not a good defense.
Okay.
They could be. I think your point is right. They are not playing up to their potential. I don't think that the potential is as high as we, and I'll include myself, thought it was in the preseason. Sean Murphy-Bunting is a nice player. Arden Key is a nice player. Aziz Al-Shaair is a nice player.
I disagree.
And if you don't get development from your young guys, this is why I want to watch Roger McCreary the rest of the year, because I want to see if he belongs as a star or a starter in the defense. Like, Amani Hooker's not had a better season. TR Tart's not had a better season. No one has gotten better. And you got rid of Kevin Byard. Doesn't mean much on the field other
Roger
than
McCreary's gotten better, by the way. But
I would agree. I would agree with that. Yeah. I think Christian Fulton, after a bizarre first month, has shown progress.
Well, when you set the bar 7 feet below the surface of the earth, then it's hard not to. A couple of things here. I think that you're totally right that I did say a very interesting thing. I'm glad that we're talking about interesting things that I said. I totally get what you're saying about how you could spin the fact that they're doing the same thing schematically into, well, they need.
That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing.
I disagree a little bit because they are, and this is, I don't want to get too much into the minutia and like the tape and scheme and all these things that are going to go over a lot of people's heads, and even I don't fully understand all the time. But they are, to me, and to folks much smarter than me, this is what's important, folks that I talk to about these things that are much smarter than me, who I go to make sure I'm not crazy about these things. The things that they're doing defensively are largely the correct things. The situations, the positions they're putting the players in, it's the right thing to do, and they're just not executing. So I don't think it's like, I get that eventually you've got to try something different, and that's what you're saying, and there's validity to that, totally. But there's only so much you can do from the sidelines if the players aren't going to execute. Like, if this Titans offense, which people have been yelling forever about, like, evolve, like, let's be an aerial attack offense, spread it out, be creative, like do things that creative teams do. If hypothetically Tim Kelly turned into the most innovative, creative head coach in the league, started pulling out all these kinds of plays that are fantastic and innovative and things that you'd never seen before, and it's like, wow, that's so clever, and the players were just dog shit at executing, it would turn into a lot of like, well, he's getting too cute, like he's got it, get back to basics, clearly these guys can't handle it. That's kind of where I think this defense is, where if they tried a bunch of different shit, it would, then the narrative would go from, you need to innovate, you need to try something different, to quit trying to get so cute, get back to basics, because they're not executing.
Probably.
It doesn't matter. They're not executing.
No, you're probably right. The reason I would agree with you is because I don't think they're very good. And that's my argument. That is my argument. That and some of you guys have said this in the comments, and I forget.
But I'm not, just to be super clear, I'm not disagreeing that they're not playing very good. We disagree that they can't be. I think we disagree on how good they could be. I'm much more on the they're underperforming train. You're much more on the they're just not good train. Is that correct? You think that's fair?
It's not even like, I'm probably in between those two things, honestly, because
it's a little bit of both. Okay.
And some of it is my own personal perception of where this defense could have been. I'll use Elijah Molden as a perfect example here, because he's a player that I really liked coming out of college. I really liked getting to talk to him and see how he handled himself as a professional very early on.
So passive aggressive, Logan. I hate you for this. The first time. It
is pretty passive aggressive.
This guy.
Elijah Molden is sort of like the microcosm of the defense for me personally, because of my perception of him developing and growing into what I think could be a starting, plays every snap, leader of the defense kind of guy, great tackler, physical, smart, IQ, the whole deal. Sure. Maybe doesn't have a perfect position on a defense, but in modern football that wants to be out in space.
The package is there.
Exactly. And he has not become that. And I think that is the overwhelming theme of almost the entire team. And this is ultimately my point. Not that the defense is bad or terrible.
Can I just clarify one quick thing? Are you saying he's not become that as in he's never been that? Or are you saying he's not playing up to that level? Because I would argue he has been that in the past. I mean, I'm old enough to remember a season in which people were saying the Titans might have the two best safeties in the league back there in Amani Hooker and Kevin Byard. They're playing out of their minds. I think he's been that guy before, and he's currently not playing like that guy.
Yes, now you've switched to Amani Hooker. I was talking about Elijah Molden, but that's okay.
Sorry. This is me not paying attention. Sorry.
No, but you know what? Hooker's like kind of the same
deal, right? Yeah. With Molden, I agree that he's not gotten there. My fault.
Right. And he's like a young player who never established the fact that he should be a starter when I thought he was going to be a starter.
I'm on the same page.
And an impact player, not a star, but like an impact player made plays that you can depend on being where he's supposed to be to do his job every single time. And I thought This guy's built from the same, all the stuff is there for him to be that player. He has not. And I was wrong about that. Like that so far. Now he could be better next year, and that could be it. Ultimately, my point on all of this is not that it's one person's fault or the other. It's that I think that the defense against Tampa, I can point to some stats. Again, they got some good pressure in the first half. I think they played very well in the first half, kept him in the game, gave him a chance to win. The offense was terrible. The offense was the reason they lost the game. I'm okay with talking about the Tampa game like that. I'm okay with talking about the Saints game probably like that as well. But again, the Bucs were excellent on third down on offense in the second half. Baker Mayfield, almost 10 yards per attempt, and they finished drives with touchdowns, and Mike Evans dropped a wide open touchdown. So it could have actually been worse from a point standpoint. And what I'm saying is that the reason the Titans are where they are on the whole, the reason they are 3-6, looking at 3-7 and being in last place with one of the worst records in the AFC
is largely the offense.
Is not just because of the offense.
I did see this is where we're just going to disagree.
No, it's a whole roster problem, because I like some of the young pieces on offense that I think are proving that they belong.
But I agree with what you just said,
in an NFL team.
I agree with what you just said, though.
I don't know on the defense who has guaranteed themselves, forget contract status, guaranteed themselves a starting role in which they are going to be a very good player for this team next year. And I am, again, it is better than the offense. I am trying to point out, in an effort to say, like, take a step back as a fan, lower your expectations, is that it's not just offensive line. Traylon Burks and Chikakakwo, major problems this year. They should have been better. We expected them to be better. I thought they were going to be better. I'm wrong. They're not better. Chig dropped a touchdown right in the end zone there that would have made it a different game potentially.
Actually, volleyball set a touchdown up for an interception.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, Kyle Phillips is showing some life in these last two games. I like that. Let's see what else. Maybe use him more. But
Tajay Spears a dog. Love Tajay Spears. I should have mentioned him. I think he's a dude and should be a starter on other teams too, by the way.
Yes, he would be, but he's not the starting running back for, like, he's not better than what the Chiefs have right now. Maybe he will be.
Oh, then Isaiah Pacheco? Give him a year. He's better than Isaiah Pacheco.
I think that's fair in a year. Yeah. Okay. What I'm saying is that you've found some guys. Almost all of them are on offense. You have not found a lot of pieces for the future on defense this year. And I want
to be fair, I want to
see more of that.
The defense is largely the same. So, like, yeah, they found, like, you're talking about, if we're talking raw number of dudes, sure, but the hit rate on guys you actually changed and brought into the lineup versus, you get what I'm saying? Because, like, the defense it's largely bringing over last year's defense.
We can do it. It's Sean Murphy Bunting, Gibbons, right. Aziz Al-Shair, Arden Key. Those Gibbons four.
He was playing,
but he wasn't like
at the end of the year. He was.
Well, so was Monty Rice. So was Monty Rice. Anyway, okay. let's move. Like, my issue is about looking at the big picture and looking at the whole 53, and then saying to like, I find this easy to do as a Preds fan. Like, they're just not very good, but they've got a lot of young players. That to me should relieve pressure on watching the games on Sundays, if that makes sense. Like, to me, it's like, I'm going to watch, and this is about, we're going to get to Levis. We've got to talk about Will Levis, but no other show's having this conversation. So
what if we just did a full hour?
Sinkers Beverages.
Mention Will Levis.
Sinkers Beverages in the Kingston Group. We'll get to Will Levis.
Can I say one last thing before we get to Levis? And you can go ahead, but let me get one. You want me to go? Okay.
Because I got one more. I got one transition piece here. That's more the coaching.
I don't want to. I'm happy to move here. Just in general, I want to point out that. And the part of this is I was arguing with folks about these things and about the Mike Vrabel hot seat thing and all of this on Twitter earlier this morning. And part of the reason I love shows like this and like the Hot Read podcast and like F Words and like Music's the Audible and all of our lovely shows here on the 440 Podcast Network. Check them all out. Much more than I like traditional sports media, the empty calories sports media that we intentionally try to avoid here on these shows is because nothing in life, but in sports in particular, in this instance, is black and white ever. No exceptions. And where I'm kind of people listening to this show are probably like, what is Easton talking about at times today? Because half the time I'm saying I completely disagree with you. And then later in the sentence, I'm like, no, but I agree with what you just said.
The only black and white thing is the argument you're making. The scoreboard. That's the only black and white part.
That part is black and white. Yes. And so there is a difference. There are two different arguments here. There is an argument of, is unit X or player X good or bad? Like, let's try to put them in a bucket of, are they playing well or are they playing bad? That's one argument. The other argument is player X or unit X playing well enough to win? That's the black and white thing. And what I'm arguing with the defense is,
Okay.
they are playing well enough to win. The offense is letting them down. Maybe the offense has found more dudes. If you want to argue that, fine, whatever. Don't care. The offense is letting them down. The defense is playing good enough to win in all but one game this year, in my opinion. More of the argument you're making, which I totally understand, and I agree with you largely, is that, like you said a minute ago when I said I agree with what you just said, this team's not very good. Yeah, the defense isn't very good. Yeah, they're underperforming to expectations. Yeah, that's true and that's fair. There's a difference, right, between they're not playing up to the level we think they can play at, or they're actually not really playing above average.
Yeah,
but they are playing good enough to win. Those are two different arguments. You get what I'm saying?
No, I can't argue with the fact that they're playing in close games is inarguable. I think that, are they playing up to their standards? My argument is that standard, my expectation was X in the preseason. It is now X minus whatever, because we need to lower it, because it's not.
Sure.
And Logan says, Braden's going to an extreme on the whole team is trash. Hang on.
Do we need to expect this team to not be as good as they could be on defense if we think that they could be?
No, this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that you're wrong. Okay. They are not as good as you say they are, but they're not trash either. I want to make sure Logan, because that's the hot take radio thing that we both hate, which is oh, this whole team is garbage, they suck, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, Sean Murphy-Bunting is a replacement level player, solid player. Arden Key is a solid player. I think
Did you think this defense was good last year? Like, what did you think about their defense last year?
The defensive front played better. Like, the defensive front, but again,
played better, or played like, were they a good unit? Were they a great unit? What did you think about them last year? It's largely the same group this year, except improved on paper.
Well, but half the starting lineup is kind of different.
No, I'm talking about just up front.
I mean, that is
the defensive front last year to this year is basically the exact same, except you replaced one guy that's not as good with the guy that on paper and in practice
should be better
before the season is better, and they've not gotten better. So, like, that's a group where I say, I don't think we need to lower our expectations for them. I think we just need to continue to point out they're not playing well. They're not playing good. Doesn't mean we have to change the expectations.
Right. But eventually,
we need to demand better.
No, I that's fair, and I agree. I think those are the strongest. That's the strongest unit on the entire team. So there's no argument about
it's supposed to be.
There's no argument there. They are not doing their jobs this year, and so that's okay.
They're not the strongest.
They need to be better. I'm fine with that. But at the end of the season, if you have not pressured the quarterback for the entire season, you are what your record says you are eventually in the NFL. It doesn't mean they can't get better the next year. And I think that's where it sounds like, I think, of the coaching staff, because this is what I want to get to with Will Levis. And I want to talk about the quarterback, because I think the idea that, like, if
hour one of a football show coming to a close, join us for hour 2 and 3 just in a couple of minutes.
If I were to rank the things that are concerning to me about the Titans offense, Tim Kelly might not be in the top 10.
You want to? Can we go through this? Can we do this exercise?
He does, like, they got into the red zone in the second half, and he designs a perfect 3rd and 4 to Chigakonkwo for a first down. They designed on the drive previously. They completely confuse a very good linebacker with a dump out pass to Tajay Spears. Levis almost hits DeAndre Hopkins on a deep shot. Maybe that's one he was supposed to dump off short. He hits Chigakonkwo in the hands in the end zone for a touchdown that gets dropped. Like the double screen to Wiley down the middle is fantastic. Of all of the things that went wrong for the Titans offense, Tim Kelly is not in the top 5.
He's doing the things, man. They're not executing. He's doing the things.
I know that just blaming the coordinator for the offense is like the thing every football fan does on every level. And I understand that.
So easy.
But, like, I'm watching that team and I'm going, the receivers don't get separation. What's your job? Get separation. What's your other job? Catch the football. Didn't happen. What about the offensive line? Don't guess. We don't have to say anything about that. It's just not good at anything. And then I think Will Levis is still a player in his third game with tons of ability and tons of, like, that we can have discussions about when to call things. I know there's been a lot of talk about let's throw the ball on first down. Well, right now, that's Will Levis's most inaccurate and least effective throwing down. He is 14 of 32 on first down. You know where he's really, really good? 2nd and 10 plus. Very strange. But his best throwing down is 2nd and 10 plus. Good news for Titans fans. They were in that situation a lot on Sunday against Tampa Bay.
That's not good news. That's not good news.
14 of 21 with a 67% completion rate and a bunch of touchdowns. The offensive. Now, here's where I think that it's fair to discuss what Tim Kelly is doing.
I disagree with this comment, by the way, from Logan.
Kelly, so I'll read it. Kelly's biggest flaw is when he wants to run Henry, he does a jumbo package. It's clear when it's a Henry run.
That's not Kelly's flaw. That's the personnel flaw. You know why? Because you have to have that package in to successfully run with Henry.
That's probably
nothing he can do.
That's probably true.
That is true. They need like 9 guys blocking to reset the line of scrimmage, or else they're going to get beat.
Where Tim Kelly needs to be better. And we talked about this on Thursday, and and Will Levis, the game is different in the red zone. But I want to expand the red zone because one of my favorite stats.
You want to expand on the red zone, or you want to physically?
No, I'm going to physically expand. I'm physically expanding the red zone.
Okay.
Because I'm going to give you some stats here. Points per trip inside the 40. It's called finishing drives. It is one of the most underrated stats in all of football.
Sure.
It's not about, because Will Levis threw a lot of touchdown passes outside of the 40. It's about finishing drives. And here's some stats for you to consider. 75% of teams that win points per trip inside the 40 win the game. So 75. So right out of the gate, if you have more points per trip inside the 40 than your opponent, you're going to win 75% of the time. There are plenty of times when you lose because you didn't get enough points inside the 40. They have had 9 trips inside the 40-yard line on offense in the last 2 games. Mm-hmm. To me, that says that like Will Levis and the play calling has been okay because they're driving the field and they're getting trips, they're getting shots to score. So trips inside the 40, trips inside the 40, 9 times.
9 trips for a total of 22 points.
22 points. That is an average.
That is 1 touchdown, I think.
1 touchdown. That is 2.4 points per trip inside your opponent's 40, which is about how you finish drives.
It's a pretty bad number.
If you are over 5.5, you're almost guaranteed to win. So I just want to give some people some perspective about where that number is. If you are at 2.4, you are in the 12th percentile. The 12th
sounds like a loser to me right there. Sounds like a loser.
2.4 points per trip inside the 40. Again, 12th percentile of football, just in general, of football. Mm-hmm. So to me, where I would say I want more answers from Tim Kelly is in that area of the field. And a lot of that is because the game is so different. As the field shrinks, the game changes. And this is not new stuff. And I think that is where a dropped pass or Levis being a rookie or the offensive line, it all gets magnified.
Right. But Can I ask a clarifying question real quick? You kind of started this out talking about how Kelly's largely doing the things and the guys just aren't executing. But then you just now said that inside that 40 finishing drives, that's where you want to see more from Kelly. Are you saying that you feel like his play calling becomes too mundane or predictable or poor in that area? Or are you saying like what?
No, I still think all the major problems with the offense exist in the red zone too. Like if the offensive line and the players.
I'd argue they get amplified a little bit. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they do amplify. And I guess that maybe what I'm saying, and maybe I'm not making it clear, is that like Tim Kelly's doing a pretty good job getting his team there. Will Levis is doing a pretty decent job getting his team there. Like you're just going to have to be better, I guess. Those are the only 2 pieces that I'm.
Get good, guys. Get good.
Because here's the and I went back and checked this. They are at 32% red zone scoring touchdowns right now. That's 31st in the NFL. Only one team worse, which is the New York Jets, which is like
if you think they don't have a quarterback.
If you think the Titans are bad, holy shit. Here's
Zach Wilson's not the problem, guys.
They are. You have to go back to 2012 to find a worse red zone offense than the current Tennessee Titans. The worst,
league or from the Titans?
In the entire NFL. This would be the worst red zone offense in 11 years of NFL football, all 32 teams.
Except for this year, where
for this year's Jets.
Disaster. Okay, gotcha.
So, like, just for example, last place, the worst red zone offense last year, 42%. That's 10% better than the Titans are right now. 44% the year before that, 42. The number of teams that have been in the 30s is only like 4 in the last 10 years in the entire league. So they are not just bad for the Titans and not just bad for 2023. They are historically bad in the red zone.
Yeah, hey, I'm naturally an optimist real quick. So let me put on my nerd hat. And here I am to tell you that basic regression tell you that this number surely this season will not, like 12 years of data, it's going to get better. It doesn't mean it's going to get good. It means it's going to get better.
It should get better. But here, like 2014, 36% was last place. 2015, 38% was last place. 2016, 35% was last place. 2017, 39% was last place.
Right. So it should get like 2 or 3 or 4 percentage points better at least.
The 20, I don't know what
3 percentage points, baby. I don't know if it's the bleach or this conversation, but I'm over here.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what the 2012 Kansas City Chiefs were doing in the red zone, but it was 27% in 2012.
Oh no! So maybe the regression's not coming. Just kidding. Never mind. Maybe that's how bad it can be.
No, I think you're right. It is because you've got to go all the way back.
Probably, but there's not clearly there is actually precedent for it to be this bad. So maybe not.
Well, and the Jets are at 22% this year, which is
that has to change. That has to change.
Yeah,
come on, Jets, you can do it.
So look, Andrew Rupchich was in there at right guard because Raden's played at left tackle after Dillard goes into concussion protocol, which is of course where he's at, and probably means he's not going to play next week, which Titans fans probably are okay with. But it means Mike Vrabel said Dylan Radins wasn't good enough, essentially, which means Jalen. He also mentioned that Jalen Duncan is going to have an opportunity to sort of fight and compete for a slot.
Stand up, Stoney. Get that hive going.
I think that's fair. I think we've learned that Josh Wiley and Kyle Phillips need to be in the offense more. They got 22 snaps from Phillips and 27 snaps from Wiley. That's 7th and 9th most snaps for all the skill position players on the offense. Probably need more of those guys out there.
I do question why. Like I need to check the tape. With tight ends, you always have to remember, like there is, especially with this team, Lord knows, the blocking element. They need to be good.
No question.
I don't actually know. From what I understand, he's been fine. But I'm not sure what he offers in comparison to like a Chikakonkwo, for example.
So I guess we got to talk Levis here for a second to end the show. Go to Sinkers Beverages in the Kingston Group. I don't.
The only show where Will Levis is the last topic of conversation today
because I don't think there's a story.
No, I agree. We're not going to.
No, I think the only story is what we said on
Snake Oil salesman, sports media members.
The only
give it to you straight.
The only story that I think about Will Levis from that game is kind of the exact stuff we said on Thursday, which is he needs to learn to protect himself more. And if that and Mike Vrabel said it on Monday, he's got to get rid of the football a little bit quicker. Don't hold on to it so long. He's got to protect his body. But I agree with Mike Vrabel in that a quarterback's future long term is not decided by some physicality in his first season. It's like if you tear like both ACLs, then maybe, but like largely your confidence and the adversity you face should have zero impact on your development. All of your learning opportunities can be mistakes. That's okay. And this goes back to my ultimate point of the show today, which is to not take the outcome and the scoreboard so seriously. Focus on the other stuff because I like Will Levis. I mean, the guy had no time to throw. Could he have been better? Sure. He's in his third start on the road against a good defensive front, a terrible secondary. Could they have taken some shots down the field more? Like you said on your show, maybe, but also they weren't very good in those situations. So I don't know. Like with Will Levis, I'm not sure what the story is other than like he still looks like a starting quarterback in the NFL playing behind a terrible offensive line with wide receivers that don't get open. I don't like.
That's what I said on my show, right? Like I kind of buried the lead on it as well because there wasn't much of a story, and I think I said like it has no impact in my opinion on our evaluation of him. Like that game is kind of, and that's actually the most infuriating thing about this game to me. Not the score, not how poorly other people played, or blah blah. No, it's the fact that we've only got like, how many games left do they have? 9, 7, 8?
They play 17.
And we've played 9 games now. Okay, math. There we go. 8 games left.
8 more to go.
We had 9 before yesterday, and they wasted 1/9 of their available windows. You get 9 chances before yesterday of 60 seconds, 60 minutes to evaluate Will Levis, and they wasted one of them. And that's a tremendous shame. It's a tremendous waste of an opportunity, and that's infuriating. I think it should be infuriating to anybody that. Again, the number one priority going into each of these games. Well, I guess number 1 is actually don't get Will Levis killed. Number 2 is see what you got. Develop him, get those live reps, put him in as many situations. We were talking on the Thursday show, you and I, about how I love that this team is just mediocre enough to put him in some situations where he's going to need to play some hero ball. And they were mediocre enough, but they were so bad, actually, I guess, that they didn't really give him the opportunity to. I want to ask you this. Do you feel like it feels pretty obvious to me that since that Atlanta game, they've gotten a little conservative with him, right? Like I want them to, I totally get it. And I get it's, the fun thing is to be as loose as possible and to have him try crazy things, but you also want to develop him the right way and get it. But I am a little bit annoyed.
Which game did he have the most time to throw?
Fair.
The Steelers didn't give him much chance, and even then he still took some shots. And I think, again, we talked about it. The throw to Burks on 4th down, I think, is a learning opportunity for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
Not just the read, but also, yes, he's in one-on-one coverage and he's your first-round pick. You need to throw the ball a little bit more in bounds and give him a chance to make a play. So
I get that. I guess
one of those throws is an opportunity.
I guess my point is that in this game, if I was going to point to, hey, Tim Kelly needs to be better, more creative in this area, that's the area where it's like, I get that your hands are tied with this offensive line, the protection, the things you can do. I get that. But this like poor pass protection has been a thing for this Titans team all year, varying levels of
not changing
pass protection. That's not changing.
It's a constant variable.
It's and Logan asks, what is your answer at left tackle?
It's the draft. It's the draft.
Yeah, my answer is to try everybody that you might think can play just to see, because you got to find out, right? Like,
get
excited that Jalen Duncan's going to get a shot, get him in there. I'm still on the Skoronski train. I don't think they're ever going to do it, but it's whatever.
You can't get worse. You can't get worse. They're on pace to be. They're on pace to be worse than Dennis Daly. You can't be worse than that. So play Jalen Duncan. See what you got.
Exactly.
Like,
if you're looking for if there is an answer on this team, the answer is almost certainly no. That there's not an answer. But there are a couple of guys in Skoronski and Duncan who you should give a chance to make. You got to make sure you don't have that guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. I mean, Zach said it weeks ago. I think we are just now closer to it based on record and losses. And if you lose to Jacksonville this weekend, which we'll talk about on Thursday, I think you can kind of push all your chips into the let's find out what we've got at each position so that we have a clearer picture of what our depth chart could look like next year. And I think as a fan, I know it's hard. I'm not suggesting it's not hard to do. It is very hard to do. Because I might be dead inside, have found it easy to do for my teams, the Packers and the Volunteers this season, which I came into the season thinking I had an under 9.5 win total. I cashed that chip this weekend. Do I think that they should get destroyed by Missouri like the way they did? No, I think that was disappointing, and there's a lot of things to learn from it. But this was always a team that was sort of building for 2024. And they're going to have a winning record and a winning season and a quality team, and gave the fans a lot of games that were really entertaining. But like, they were never going to be as good as they were last year. And that was the expectation in the summer. And so it's been easier to watch the team. Same thing with the Preds, same thing with the Packers. That's where I want Titans fans to kind of come with me along. It's just like, I'm not saying it's not hard to like not invest as much on Sundays at noon. Like, I get it. Like, it's hard to do. But if you can take a step back from that and be genuinely excited about the big picture, I think there's lots to be excited about. And that is, you have a brand new general manager and front office structure with a coordinator you think you like, I think I like, at offense, and a quarterback that could be your future. That's more than this organization has had in a while. So I think it's okay. I think it's okay to get excited about the team big picture and then not beat yourself up on Sunday afternoons at 3:00 if they look like shit. Does that make sense? Are you listening?
It does. It does. We've done about an hour of the show, and Stoney says he bet a kidney on 10 wins. He's in too deep now. We're gonna find Stoney.
Well,
we're gonna find him passed out in a bathtub of ice in a motel.
Literally more than his heart has invested in the team. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Other organs. Okay.
Yeah, well, I have no more to say, and that's the show.
And that's the show.
I think that's it.
Didn't talk a lot about Will Levis. We'll do that on Thursday, of course. Again, progress, success. What does that look like for him? Number one, protect your body. Don't get hurt. And just keep making quick decisions. So we'll get to that. We didn't talk any SEC either. Jimbo Fisher fired, gone. he's gone. So we'll talk about that as well on Thursday. SEC
I'd trade places with Jimbo Fisher right now in a heartbeat. I'll tell you that much.
Shit. You know who else? This is also something I wanted to say on the show. We did not get to. We're not going to spend much time on it, but I just want to point this out. Okay. You know who the happiest member of the Tennessee Titans organization is right now?
Rand Carthon?
Ryan fucking Tannehill.
No, because he's not having to be out there taking a beating.
It's not even close. The happiest member of the Tennessee Titans organization is Ryan Tannehill.
Wait, why though? Why do you think?
Because he's not out there getting beat up and he's leaving next year.
Okay,
he's leaving next year. He just sits there he just sits there cashing a $36 million check every week.
He gets to go home to his beautiful family, see his beautiful
no
kids,
injuries,
just hang out,
no pain.
He can wrestle with the young ones, and it's not
no
sore.
pressure, pressure, nothing. Ryan Tannehill. Easy street, baby.
Just sit in the back of the QB room, lean back, throw a couple of sage words of wisdom out there once in a while, contribute a little bit.
I bet you he gets in that truck every night and leaves St. Thomas Sports Park to go home, and he's just like, well, that was easy.
How was work? Great.
It was
Another
great.
great
It was
day at the
great.
office. Another great day at the office.
Nobody hit me. I didn't have to work hard. There's no pressure. I'm making
Just kind
huge
of hung out with
amounts
the
of
boys.
money.
Yeah, exactly. They made my food for me. I just kind of hung out.
I'll go do
Went to
it
a couple
tomorrow.
meetings.
I did
Sure.
some hamstring curls. Like, it was great.
And that Joe Flacco guy sticking around in the league as a back, like he might be onto something. He might be onto something.
There you go. All right, Easton Freeze, thank you so much for filling in and hanging out these last 3 shows. We do appreciate it. Zach is back on Thursday.
Man. Thanks so much for having me.
Hot Read Podcast. Go check it out, of course, everywhere you get your podcasts and on the YouTube pages, 440 Sports and Broadway Sports Media. Sinkers Beverages, the Kingston Group. We love you guys. Please, all of you who listen and rate and review and subscribe and all that great stuff and ask questions. You guys are great today. Go support those businesses as well. So we do appreciate you. And we'll talk to you on Thursday. Thanks for listening, everybody.